ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Los Angeles City Board of Public Works. We are at first week of June, Friday, June 4th, 2021. Hope everyone is well.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Good to see everybody. Okay, Ted out farming. Very good. Love it. Okay, so let's jump into our agenda. We have a lot today. So,
President, if it's okay, let me go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry, Dr. Campos. Set up
really quick. Yeah. It's a small little minor detail.
Yeah, no, it's kind of
Good morning, everyone. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Establishing roll call and quorum for today. We have President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum. All commissioners are dialing in remotely. You, President Good, are dialing in from his City Hall office, and all other commissioners are dialing in from home. Myself, I'm dialing in remotely from home, and we are also joined by our General Counsel, Mr. Ted Jordan, who's dialing in remotely as well. You do have representatives here from all bureaus. At this time, we currently have one caller on the line under general public comment, and we have no commentary under the neighborhood council comment section, and no other speakers for any of the items for today's regular agenda.
Sure. You said no general public comment, but
we have one caller for general public comment.
Okay, and then the items that we have callers in on?
We do not have any callers on.
Okay, got it. Okay, why don't we go ahead and then and hear public comment, and then we'll jump into the agenda.
Absolutely, Mr. President. Thank you. Caller ending in 100. Caller ending in 100. The Board of Public Works is now considering public comments. If you can please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak under general public comment. Please go ahead, Deborah.
Yes, good morning. Yes, good morning. My name is Deborah Keaton. I'm a resident of Venice Beach. I live on the corner of Venice and Electric Avenue, about 50 feet from a rather large homeless camp. And I'm speaking for the residents of my neighborhood. We, the residents, continue to stress our concerns over the homeless encampment, which begins at the corner of Venice Boulevard and Electric and runs west for over a block toward Abbot Kinney Boulevard. We want to protect the residents from the increase in crime, drug use, and prostitution at this encampment, and reestablish access to a major public thoroughfare that this encampment completely blocks. This stretch of sidewalk and the adjacent land that the encampment encompasses is city property, but nothing has been done to mitigate the problems coming from the encampment. We would like to propose a solution to beautify the area, or even petition to designate this area a city park that can be enjoyed by all, in turn connecting the residents of Venice and all Angelenos to the commercial district of Abbot Kinney. There is a bus stop located at Shell and Venice that brings in all visitors and employees of the area, but the encampment hinders the ability to connect all bus passengers from walking to Abbot Kinney. I'm here to speak about the need for the city to address this large encampment because it completely blocks the sidewalk and other rights of way. By blocking the sidewalk, these encampments constitute major violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act and create dangerous conditions for pedestrians who are forced to walk into busy streets to navigate around encampments and block access to parks, transit, and local businesses. For example, where I live in Venice, a large encampment has developed along North Venice Boulevard, stretching well for over a block. This stretch is an important thoroughfare and provides access to the business district for residents of East Venice and for those who access public transit. It's also incredibly dangerous. I've walked down there personally with my 11-year-old daughter, and we've been harassed. It's scary, and every morning when she wakes up in the morning, this is the first thing that she sees. She sees women soliciting prostitution directly in front of her, drug deals. There's needles all over the place. They're aggressive. They play music all into the night. They steal electricity from the light poles here. I know that you're. Am I out of time?
Yes. If you just please wrap up.
2 minutes.
Okay, so I along with my neighbors, implore the city to address this encampment and other encampments like it and restore access to sidewalks that have been blocked by large encampments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for calling in very much. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you, Deborah. Mr. President, that does clear up the queue for public comments. We will go ahead and close that session, and then also the neighborhood council comment section. We will close that out. Also, Mr. President, I failed to mention that we do have the applicant and his team member for item number 3, should your board have any questions for the applicant on item number 3.
Okay.
And there's also been a request to continue 9 and 10 to items 9 and 10 to Wednesday, August the 4th, 2021, should your board consider that.
Okay. All right. Thank you on those notes. Those were, okay. Who made that request?
The request to continue item number 9 and 10 was made by the Bureau of Engineering for additional time to reassess the items, and they would like to continue that till Wednesday, August the 4th, 2021.
Okay. Let's
and we do have a representative here from the Bureau of Engineering, Mr. Bill Knight.
I'm comfortable continuing those to August 4th, and would move to do so. Colleagues, any questions or concerns on that?
None for me, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you all. So let's go ahead, Dr. Campos, and continue items 9 and 10 to August 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, so then let's go to the minutes from Friday, May 14th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any questions or concerns? Or do I have a second? Actually, let me have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Colosa, Villegas, any questions? Okay. Hearing none, the minutes from Friday, May 14th, 2021 are adopted and approved forthwith. That brings us to item number 1 on the agenda. Hello, Mr. Mokelbust.
Good morning. This is Bert Mokelbust with the.
I was just saying good morning. Let me read the item. All right, item 1, relinquishment of rights, 17825 Sunburst Street, Lot 35, tract number 18012. Recommending board 1, execute the attached document relinquishing any and all rights to the City of Los Angeles for public alley purposes within the future alley shown on the attached Exhibit A, subject to the following condition. Petitioner shall make satisfactory arrangements with the Real Estate Division of the Bureau of Engineering, 1149 South Broadway, 6th floor, Los Angeles, California, 90015, with respect to payment of document recording fees. 2, request the city clerk to attest the signatures of the Public Works Commissioner. And 3, instruct the Real Estate Division of the Bureau of Engineering to record the executed document in the office of the county recorder when the condition and recommendation number 1 has been satisfied. Who are you here, Bart, on this item?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Good morning. Please tell us about it.
Okay. Good morning. So I'm Bert Mokelbust. I'm with the Bureau of Engineering's Permit Case Management. The item in front of you is a request to relinquish the rights to a future alley at 17825 Sunbird Street. We're asking that the board execute the relinquishment documents, request that the city clerk attest to the signatures, and instruct the Real Estate Division to record the executed document once the petitioner has paid the document recording fees. Brief history on this particular item. This future alley was recorded as part of Tract 18012, which recorded November 6, 1952. The acceptance of that future alley was not endorsed as part of the map, and the lot was subsequently sold to third parties. The future alley has never been used or improved for public alley purposes. Council District 12 was notified of the relinquishments and have no objections. So we're just asking to execute the documents to clear the title for the property owner.
Okay, colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Villegas?
Thank you. I have no questions. I understood the report. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. President Pro Tem Davis?
None for me either. Thank you so much for the report.
All right. Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. Nothing from me either.
And Commissioner Colosa?
No questions for me. Thank you for the report, Mr. Mokelbust.
Yes, thank you. No questions on mine. Pretty clear cut, so to speak. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Uh,
Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. David
Give
got
it to the vice. Give it to the VP.
I think you beat her to the punch, Mike. So I'm going to give the motion to President Pro Tem Davis, seconded by Vice President Garcia. Villegas, Colosa, any concerns? All right, hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you, Bart. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 2, construction budget, revised construction orders and change orders. Matthew and Stewart Company, Inc. Super expedited wastewater emergency rehabilitation for sewers program. Venice Way 400 project. Recommending the board authorize a construction budget of $226,090, including contingency, for the super expedited wastewater emergency rehabilitation for sewers program. Venice Way 400 project. And 2, authorize the city engineer to issue revised construction orders and change orders up to the authorized construction budget for this project. Work order SZC 13655 C-130391. Who's with us today? Do I see Mr. Vaughn?
Yes, that's me.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Good morning. How are you?
Great.
Okay. I will. Good morning, commissioners. This is George Huang from the Bureau of Engineering from the Wastewater Conveyance Construction Division. The item before you today is a request to authorize a construction budget of $226,090, including contingencies for the Venice Way project. The Venice Way project is being performed under the Super Expedited Wastewater Emergency Rehabilitation for Sewers program. In short, we just call it Sewers program. And a little background about the program is that it was executed. The Board of Public Works executed the contracts to 3 contractors, Matthew and Stewart and Company, and Minar and Tomovich, on October 18, 2017. The contract is for 5 years, and with a $30 million contract budget. On April 14, 2020, the Board of Public Works increased the not-to-exceed cost ceiling of the contract from $30 million to $40 million, with no changes to the terms and conditions of this contract. The sewers contract is to expedite repairs as identified by LA Sanitation, and then it's necessary in order to provide uninterrupted service and reduce potential sewer spills. The sewers program right now is in its 6th contract since its inception in 2003. Work is issued through to the sewers contractors through a series of construction orders, and the city engineer has the authority to issue each construction order for up to a total cost of $150,000. So the Venice Way 400 project is located in an alley street on Venice Way between Andalusia and Avenue and Venice Boulevard. There is an existing 8-inch vitrified clay pipe BCP sewer that is about 10 feet deep and 350 linear feet long, and was constructed in 1926. So the project is seeking to remove and replace the sewer, the entire sewer reach, and also restore the house connections. And based on the schedule and prices, the lowest bidder was Matthew and Stewart at $59,640. During the excavation, the contractor encountered groundwater being close to the coastal area, and the standard pumps that the contractor used could not reduce the groundwater, and therefore the watering plan had to be drawn up to use larger diameter pumps in order to proceed with the full replacement of the sewer reach. As a result of that, the groundwater mitigation increased the project to an estimated $226,090, which exceeded the city engineer's authority of the $150,000 mentioned earlier. Therefore, this request is for the board to consider approving the construction budget for the excess of this city engineer authority, and for and to issue the revised construction order and change orders in order to proceed with the work on this project. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huang. About 25 years ago, I lived right on that corner.
Yes.
Little background, reminding you how old I am too. Vice President Garcia, any questions?
No questions at all. I like the title, by the way, super expedited.
Oh no, I wondered who came up with that.
I know. I wanted to ask, what's all that about? I don't have any questions. Your report was very thorough. So thank you so much. I know this has come to the board a couple times already.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis?
Yes, no inquiry on this item. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas?
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. I appreciate your report, Mr. Wang. It was really thorough.
All right. Commissioner Colosa?
No questions for me. Thank you for your report, Mr. Wang.
Yes, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to move forward?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Closer. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Concerns or objections, Garcia or Villegas? All right, hearing no objections, the item is adopted. Thank you very much, Mr. Warner. And go do the super expedited work.
We also have an emergency sewer work also.
Right.
It's great. We have a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
All right. Colleagues, that brings us to item number 3. Item number 3 is in CD5. This is a tree removal, 10955 West Wilshire Boulevard on Gailey Avenue. Recommending the board, 1, find under the California Public Resources Code, section 21166, and the state's Environmental Quality Act guidelines, section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that since the city's prior certification of the Environmental Impact Report number ENV-2008-2368-EIR, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance concerning the project, which cause new significant environmental effects or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent EIR, supplemental EIR, or other analysis is required for the project. 2, specify that the Bureau of Street Services, Urban Forestry Division, located at 11497 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And 3, review and approve the request for a fee permit for the removal of 4 Indian laurel fig, Ficus microcarpa trees. Tree replacements are indeed required. See, Mr. Banuelos has joined us. Good morning, Hector.
Good morning, Commissioner. Yes, good morning, President. Commissioner. Hector Banuelos here with Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. What we have before us is a request for a fee permit to remove 4 Indian laurel fig trees, or ficus trees, in front of, or actually on the Gailey Avenue side of 10955 West Wilshire Boulevard in the community of Westwood Village and Council District 5. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 29-story, 250-unit apartment dwelling or complex there with about 6,500 square feet identified for commercial use as part of city planning case number vesting tentative tract 70935. As part of the conditions of this development, the applicant is required to reduce the roadway width of Gailey Avenue from a 35 feet half roadway to 28 foot half roadway. The improvements are going to impact the street trees, or very minimal impact. However, in meeting with the applicant, it was discovered that they're actually constructing or a four-story subterranean garage, and they'll be encroaching within about 2 feet of the tree trunks of these 4 trees, and therefore the encroachment or the excavation is going to compromise the health and the structural integrity of these large ficus trees. These ficus trees measure about 22 inches to 26 inches in diameter by about 35 to 40 feet in height. So they're very large, mature trees. And unfortunately, the trees
Is that my computer or is it everybody else's? Must be just mine.
No, it looks like it's been Mr. Benuelos's video.
Oh, okay.
Hector, you're
Don't worry,
freezing.
Dr. Davis. I had the same word.
Okay.
Okay. Did my communication stop? Or did anybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir. For me, it stopped a little bit. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Okay. Would you like rather I start again?
Yes, sir. If you don't mind.
Okay. No, I don't mind. No. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hector Banuelos, Urban Forestry Division here as part of CLA. This is a request for a fee permit to remove 4 Indian large laurel fig trees or ficus trees, as we all know them as, at 10955 West Wilshire Boulevard on Gailey Avenue street side. The applicant is proposing, or actually was approved, to construct a 29-story, 250-unit apartment building as part of the city planning case vesting tentative tract 70935. As part of the conditions of this development, the applicant is required to reduce the roadway width of Gailey Avenue from a current 35 feet half roadway to 28 feet half roadway width. The required street modifications will minimally impact the 4 trees, and initially the Streets LA sought to deny this request to keep those trees in place. However, in meeting with the applicant, it was discovered that the applicant will be excavating down below about 4 stories for a parking structure. And so this encroachment is going to be about 2 feet away, within about 2 feet away from the tree trunks of these trees, and therefore will affect the health and structural integrity of the 4 trees, therefore requiring their removal. If approved, the applicant, there is room, appears to be room for only 3 trees at the site due to driveways and other infrastructure there. And the applicant is actually, we're requesting that the board also allow Streets LA to allow the applicant to pay the tree planting guarantee fee for an additional 5 trees to meet the 2-to-1 requirement for tree replacements. The Council Office 5 was advised of the tree removal permit request and they are neutral on this request. They're neither opposed nor really in support of the tree removals, and they're neutral on the development as well. The Community Forestry Advisory Committee and the Department of Environment were also informed of the tree removal permit request. So that concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Benuelos. Colleagues, I'll open it up. President Davis.
Mr. Benuelos, the 4 trees that we are having to remove, are any of those 4, maybe 2 of them, in a position to be potentially saved? We always have, as you already know better than I, concern about what we have done to try to save any of the trees. So I'm just asking that question. I understand that in our initial review, it appeared that we did not necessarily have to remove them until such time we start looking at the construction of the garage, if I heard you correctly. And I just wanted to know, of those 4, was there some possibility that maybe 1 or 2 of those could have been saved?
According to what the information that we received, no. There's the trees. There's no way the trees can survive with the impact that they're going to sustain in order to construct the underground parking structure.
Are all of the 4 trees collectively in the same area?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Coloso.
Thank you, President Good. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Benuelos. And maybe my question is better suited for the applicant. I was just curious, and I know it's not part of the item that we're hearing before today, but I just usually like to ask this question for my general awareness as the type of units that are being built as background. But are any of these 250 units affordable housing units by chance?
They are not. They're market rate.
They're market rate. Okay. And then in terms of just so I can get a bigger picture, obviously on the street side, we're removing these 4 trees, but there's nowhere else to plant these additional trees on site that you were able to find?
No, and when we were exploring this option for replacement of trees, we had prepared a tree spacing plan, which basically took our B permit street plan and all the required improvements along Gailey, fire hydrants, DWP infrastructure, handicap ramps, street lights, and in order to meet the urban forestry requirements for tree spacing, we were only able to put in 3. And we provided an exhibit to urban forestry showing that.
Got it. And so based off of Mr. Benuelos, based off Streets LA's requirement, 3 is the maximum that you are able to fit on the site.
Commissioner, was that a question for me or for the applicant?
I was just asking you more to verify that you all kind of, look through every possible option. 3 was the absolute maximum that you could fit given our own requirements for spacing.
From what I've reviewed on the plans, it appears that there's only room for 3. However, when all the infrastructure is installed and we see that there's room for an additional trees, we will require the applicant to plant those trees as well.
Is it because there's like some staging area right now that you're not able to see if there's additional space there? Is that just so I can better understand what you're saying?
No, it's not due to staging. It's due to the required street improvements and the planned, like street lights, street furniture, driveways, etc.
Okay. And so, all right. I don't think I have any more questions, but hopeful that and know that Streets LA will do their due diligence if additional trees are able to be planted on site. So thank you, Mr. Benuelos.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. It's a shame that we're gonna remove these trees. They're actually very nice trees. Hector, from what I can see, they look like very good, nice trees that have been kept up, trimmed, and make an aesthetic pleasing place in that area. Hector, what is the health of these trees that we are going to remove, that the applicant is asking to remove?
They're in very good condition. Unfortunately, due to the required, not really, due to the proposed construction of the underground garage, that the trees are going to be severely impacted and need to be removed.
I think for the record, we are not, I'll speak for myself, but I'm not happy that we're removing 4 beautiful trees. I know that my colleagues already asked, was there any possible way that we can save them? And I guess my plea is the same. Is there any possible way that we can work around these trees? They're very nice and make, they're going to break the rest of the other trees that are on that area.
If the tree, we can't undo what was already previously approved by city planning, unfortunately. So we fought this initially, and we're recommending the board to deny the request for tree removals, but due to the underground parking structure excavation, the trees have to be removed. We don't like it any much as anybody else, but
I know, and it's also a shame that this development's not going to bring any community benefit either. It's not going to help us with affordable housing. It's not going. I know that this is not your wheelhouse or really ours, but it's just a shame that this is where it's at. So I know we can't do anything about it, and I don't have any other questions. But if in the future, again, my plea is in the future, if we can, especially if they're healthy and beautiful as these are, we should be able to save them somehow. That's all for me, President Good.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas?
I thank you, and I appreciate the line of questioning from my colleagues on the board. I wanted just to add just a little bit of more information. Mr. Banuelos, if you can just clarify or just bring a little bit more information. You said in the event that the developer is able to fit in more trees that he will, and this is once the project is started. And is there any other information that you can share with us on that?
Well, yes, tree planting is usually a requirement for large developments such as this. Right? So, and urban forestry within Streets LA, we always strive to plant or have the applicants plant as many trees as feasible at all large developments, right? Or any development for that matter, or any project, right? So we want to see more trees in the ground. However, the plans that were presented to us shows a lot of things going on in this project, right? A lot of infrastructure, driveways, fire hydrants. It's just a lot of things in the right of way that kind of limit our ability to plant, more trees there. So yes, if we being urban forestry or Streets LA see that there's opportunity to plant additional trees, we will definitely have the applicant plant more trees.
Thank you. And colleagues, this is the last permit. I think Mr. Ted Jordan, did you want to say something?
Yes, the report has as a condition that the applicant will pay the in lieu fee provided under the municipal code of $9,725. That's a condition that Street Services is recommending the board impose as a condition of the approval. That means we get the in lieu fee. It doesn't provide for this, well, if we can find a spot somehow magically during construction. So I think Mr. Banuelos needs to make more clear whether or not that fee will be imposed or not. Because right now the condition is to impose that fee. That's the in lieu fee for 5 trees that will be planted on site. So it doesn't really provide for anything other than the in lieu fee for 5 trees. It doesn't provide for, well, if we can find a spot, we'll find a spot. The purpose of the in lieu fee is that the board determines that the trees cannot be accommodated on the site, the fee is paid, and then pursuant to the process laid out when the in lieu fee was adopted, will be other sites found for those trees. That's how that process works. It's not sort of a, well, if we find a spot, we will plant a tree. Once the in lieu fee is collected, the location for trees paid for through that fee, it's an entirely separate process that ultimately requires council approval. I just think it should be a little bit more clear here. And I'm sorry to interject myself into it.
Oh, that's fine. I have a point of clarification that I'd like to, point of inquiry, Mr. President, and that is building upon Attorney Jordan's point, and that is, I wanted to know what this whole policy is of board in terms of replacing trees. Oftentimes, we replace it 3-to-1, sometimes it's 4-to-1. So how does that apply, Mr. President? Oh, well, I guess Mr. Banuelos, I guess, will be the person, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Banuelos, you want to answer that?
The board, from my understanding, they have 2-to-1 tree replacement policy on street trees. That's a natural occurring protected tree, then it's a 4-to-1. As far as I know, those are the only ratios of tree replacement that I'm aware of. However, if the applicant or development is required to plant trees as part of their entitlement, through the entitlement as part of their conditions to construct, they may be required to plant more than the 2 to 1, depending on what speed and how many trees the site can accommodate.
Okay, and so how does that relate to Attorney Jordan's question or inquiry as well, as he pointed out to you?
Urban forestry is always trying to strive to plant as many trees as we can on a particular project, right? Regardless if they're for replacements or as they're conditioned to plant. Right? So as it relates to Mr. Jordan's inquiry or questions or concerns, the division is, with the documents that were presented to us, it only appears that 3 trees can be feasibly planted. But during construction, there's always things changing at times, right? And so we may need to alter it slightly to accommodate. Maybe there may be room to plant additional trees.
Right. So that's how we are going to apply. I think that's the question: is how we're going to apply it here in terms of the fees that they have due to us, that will absolutely guarantee that these trees are absolute in what we're going to do in terms of replacement of them. That application should have been enforced, right? I think.
Well, the application is being enforced, right? We saw on the application and the documents presented to Streets LA that there's only room to plant 3 trees. That's why we're recommending that the board allow Streets LA to or allow the applicant to pay the tree planting guarantee fee for the additional 5 trees.
Oh, okay, that's what I was searching.
Community at a later date.
Okay, he will pay it at a later date. Is that what you said?
They will be planted.
Oh, well, they'll be planted.
The trees will be planted at a later date. Yes.
Okay, and then as it relates to my question about how many, we will reevaluate or reassess that as well. Is that correct?
I don't know if we're going to reassess, but where the trees will be planted at a later date to meet the 2 to 1 at minimum.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Commissioner, I feel like I've taken this down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. I think perhaps the recommendation in the report, the condition should be revised somewhat that would provide for the flexibility that Mr. Van Willis is talking about. So authorize the use of the in-lieu fee up to the amount that they specify there for any trees that cannot be feasibly planted outside.
Okay.
Well, we need to.
I guess they won't know how much that is.
Mr. President, can I speak on behalf of the owner?
1 second, please. What I do think you point out there, Ted, is we actually don't have a recommendation on here for use of the in-lieu fee anyway. So we need to actually, we're going to need to amend the recommendation, make an amendment on that as well. So we need to address that. And I believe even a determination of the need to remove the trees, which is not on here as well. So we'll come back to that. Who was the gentleman who just...
I just haven't finished.
Oh, yeah. Yes, please, Commissioner Villegas.
Yeah, I was asking about that, and I was asking about just the what sounded to be just the vagueness of the additional trees that could be planted. And that's when Mr. Jordan asked his question or kind of clarified that information. But then we hear that Mr. Banuelos keeps going back to the additional trees that could be planted. So thank you for raising that, just at least like giving me more information on that. That's where my line of questioning was going. And I just didn't get a chance to finish up because we all started talking. So I just wanted to let you know that was my line of question. But I also want to let you know that this is one of those issues that Streets LA and, this board has been grappling with, and one that we are making some strides in, and talking with planning sooner rather than later, because this is already one of those, it's already gone through this process, and so when it comes to us, this is the last permit that's going to be issued to this developer, and then they're going to start their project. We've done some meetings now just to be able to convene, and so that planning also understands our issues at the end. And so, it's important also for the developer to understand how difficult these decisions are, regardless if, in their eyes, it may just be 4 trees that are being removed, and I'm going to do my due diligence in terms of planting additional trees. That's not what this is about. It's also about climate change. It's also about our resiliency. It's also about good, nourished trees that we're going to be taken down, and we take those decisions very seriously at this board. And I just wanted to say that, just to kind of put a little bit more emphasis on that piece. I do respect, the developer's gone through the process, and I understand that our process has some glitches that we're working through. Regardless, still those are difficult decisions for this board to make. And I just wanted to kind of say for the record. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Davis.
Can I just add one thing? I think we all understand that there's a lieu fee and there's $9,000 there, but in my perspective, we prefer trees staying instead of the money. So we understand that there's that fee out there. That's all.
Mr. Hekmat, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, but you, I believe, had a question or a comment you wanted to share with us.
Yes, Mr. President. Cam Hekmat is my name. I'm a long-term resident of Westwood. I have been past chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in Westwood. I had organized the original business improvement district in Westwood. I am a tree hugger in myself in Westwood. I have been in other hearings where there had been questions about moving trees in Westwood, and I had carefully studied the necessity or the advisability of it in the past. I was one of the ones that objected Councilman Yaroslavsky originally by removing the original Westwood trees and replacing them with a different kind of trees on Westwood Boulevard median. I want to let you know that this decision, I agree with everything that the board is saying. I love those trees. Frankly, some 15, 12, 13 years ago, when there was a gas station on the site and it was removed and demolished, there was a wild rose plant in the yard of the gas station. I asked the demolishing people to keep that rose bush. That rose bush is still there. It's thriving without even watering it. Unfortunately, we have to look at alternatives. We've owned that property for some 30 years. About 15 years ago, with the 100% support of Westwood community, we embarked upon hiring an architect to help us design a first-class building on West Los Angeles, which would set the highlight of West LA from the freeway. We hired one of the most important architects in the world, Robert Stern of New York, to help us design a flat iron type building for this site because it's a triangular site. Its design was met by universal approval of the hearing examiners and planning commission in the city of Los Angeles. We've done a environmental impact study for this project in 2010. The issue of these trees were considered in the EIR. We were allowed to remove them and replace them. So throughout the design of this project, I have been all over trying to find out how we can maintain these trees if we can. And it was decided it cannot, because our garage is coming in within 1 or 2 feet of the roots of these trees underground. So we couldn't save them. Now, how many of them could we put back in? How many trees we want? I wanted to put the maximum. Actually, we have a fourth level area, outdoor area, and we are putting a lot of trees in planters over there on the fourth level pool area of this building. However, on this sidewalk, I wanted to put maximum. We were originally planning to have 4. I was vetoed, and we were not allowed to put 4 because we have 2 traffic signals within 150 feet of this frontage, 1 fire hydrant, and 1 street light. And each one of them need to have a certain distance from a tree. So the maximum we could squeeze in this length of or JLD was 3 trees. And I understand if I could have put 4, if I could have maintained all of them, I would have loved to have it. I was one of them that tries to keep them lit all year long. But unfortunately, I'm as sorry as everybody else is that we have to lose it in order to bring in a development in Westwood that the council office fully supports, and it's needed for Westwood Boulevard for resurgence of our community. Therefore, it's a choice between which direction we would go. And I would appreciate your consideration to allow me go forward and get these trees back in. Besides, we are right next to a metro station, and they have also taken all the trees on Wilshire Boulevard down in order to do their development. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Heckman. I appreciate that. I actually remember that gas station. Yeah, again, reminding age. Colleagues, any additional questions?
Yeah, I would just like to say that certainly as an advocate for development, because it is the core value of what makes our city great, is to have accommodations, not only in terms of housing, but in terms of appropriate facilities for businesses and all of the activities that a society needs to be a vibrant community. But at the same time, I think what the board is wondering, and what our vision is we are wondering when we will be able to help change the culture of construction in the city of Los Angeles that embraces a value for saving trees. And in doing so, and looking at our vision deeper, does it mean that we ask before construction takes place to our prime contractors? You know, for example, who can construct a facility in this location and save the most trees? And seemingly, we might need to ask that question before construction takes place, as opposed to when it comes to the board after construction and plans have already been drawn. So I'll just conclude by saying that the issue for the board is certainly not to stop progress, but the issue for us is to be able to enact a vision that will allow us to be able to have construction that will save more trees than we are currently witnessing. And we believe perhaps some discussion, maybe at a different time in the process, might need to be a priority. I just wanted to say that I thought this was appropriate time to do it.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Anybody have any follow-up questions either for Mr. Heckman or for Mr. Manuelos?
I just want to say, Mr. Heckman, thank you for coming onto the screen and thank you for giving your testimony. It makes a difference knowing that you also do care about trees and that you are also being cognizant when you do your developments about saving trees. So I appreciate that because not a lot of people do come to our board and do that. So thank you for doing that.
Thank
And
you.
Hector, I'm sorry that we put so much pressure on you, but thank you for that. Thank you for working with us through this whole change that we want to do. And also thank you to Teresa for leading this effort with planning and making sure that we can get ahead of the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that this is, it's interesting when you, this is certainly germane to the motion that Commissioner Villegas put forward before us, I guess it was last week, that I very proudly seconded. This gets very much to the import and the objective of that motion. So I do think there's a lot of work and a lot of conversation to be had. I would also echo Vice President Garcia's appreciation, Mr. Heckman, really providing context, helpful context to this. Unless there are further questions or comments, what I think we need to do now is contemplate sort of the surgery of the report. I think we need to do an amendment that incorporates a recommendation with a determination of the need to remove the trees and a recommendation allowing for the use of or to use the in lieu fee to empower the use of the in lieu fee. One thought, since we will end up needing to do an amendment, would be an amendment that would allow for Streets LA to work with the developer in the event, because Ted makes a good point, like either we do it or we don't on the in lieu fee with the $9,000 if meaningfully there is potential that we're unaware of for additional trees to be planted on the site that we're not aware of at this point. If that's real, then I feel like there's potentially a way to achieve that and then have the in lieu fee be the default in the event that that's not viable. But I think that's a fool's errand. If realistically, we really don't think there's going to be opportunity or that possibility. So, as a threshold question, Hector and really Mr. Heckman, do you all feel like there is a legitimate possibility that there could be more room for more trees, or are we just sort of like hoping and wishing, in which case we probably just need to go ahead and do this based on the recommendations?
Unless things change significantly with the amount of infrastructure and other items I've seen on the plans, I don't think we're going to be able to fit more than 3 trees on this project.
Yeah, that's my impression as well. So what I would suggest is, Dr. Campos, can we play with some language on the amendment? What do we need to add to we need to amend the report to reflect the use of the determination of the trees and the use of the in-lieu, correct?
That is correct, Mr. President, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. What I would recommend is adding a new recommendation, which would be recommendation number 4 to the report, as follows. Concur with Streets LA determination that the site cannot feasibly accommodate all the required replacement trees, and pursuant to the Los Angeles Municipal Code 62.177C, authorize the tree replacement guarantee fee to satisfy the board's tree planting requirement. That recommendation would capture both of your recommendations that you suggested, and that would allow the Bureau of Street Services to move forward and allow the tree guarantee and lieu fee to be utilized. If your board wanted to address the second matter, which is on page number 2, if the board adopts it as written, then no changes on page number 2 for the change in the number of trees. Sounds to me, from my understanding from Mr. Benuelos, that the trees that are being planted on site is at maximum capacity, which is the 3. So therefore, your board may not need to change that paragraph on page number 2. But to address your first question, which is the additional recommendation for the determination of the in lieu fee use, then that would be my recommendation to read in that new recommendation number 4.
So I will motion to approve the item with the amended recommendation 4.
I'll second that.
Davis, Garcia, Colosa, further questions or concerns?
And for me.
All right, we'll make this let's call roll on this one, Dr. Campos, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President. The board is now considering item number 3 as amended to include recommendation number 4 as follows. Concur with Streets LA determination that the site cannot feasibly accommodate all the required replacement trees and pursuant to the Los Angeles Municipal Code 62.177C, authorize the tree replacement guarantee fee to satisfy the board's tree planting requirement. This motion has been moved by President Good and seconded by Commissioner Villegas. Roll call for this item. President Good.
Aye.
Vice President Garcia.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Colosa.
Aye.
And Commissioner Villegas.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. This motion as amended has been carried unanimously, and the report has been adopted as amended.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Heckman. Thank you, Dr. Campos. Please plant wherever you can, Mr. Heckman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank
President,
you.
would your board like to consider this item forthwith?
Yes, please consider this forthwith, and thank you, Mr. Benuelos, for the hard work and the complex work. We appreciate it. You know that.
Thank you.
I know you get pushed and pulled a lot, and I do want to note it for the record that we appreciate the difficulty and the complexity of the job.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like Gumby, but that's okay.
I must confess, I've never thought of you as Gumby, Hector, but
We took it way back twice, one with Councilmember Yaroslavsky and then way back now with Gumby. For the millennials, they're probably born when that was going on.
and that gas station, I remember. Yeah.
Gas station.
I do remember that gas station. All right, thank you all, and thank you, Hector, very much, and thank you, Mr. Heckman. All right, colleagues, and thank you all and thank you, Mr. Jordan. So let's move now to item number 4. So item number 4, colleagues, is contract acceptance, active transportation program, Hollywood Boulevard and Western Avenue pedestrian improvements and safe routes to school, infrastructure improvements for Hollywood High School and Selma Avenue Elementary School, federal project numbers ATPL-5006, 803, and 5006, 798. Recommending the board accept this contract. Work orders E1907827 and E1907830. Who is with us today on this item? Dr. Campos?
Yes, we have Mr. Roosevelt Bagby.
Oh, hey, Mr. Bagby, how are you?
Good morning, President Good and Commissioners. How are you today?
Good.
This is a recommendation for the board to accept this contract. This is another one of our active transportation program projects, Hollywood Boulevard, Western Avenue pedestrian improvements. On May 12, 2017, this board executed a construction contract with Comet Electric. On May 24, 2020, the contractor completed the field work. This project took place in Council Districts 4 and 13. The general area is Hollywood Boulevard and Western Avenue, also La Brea Avenue and Cahuenga Boulevard. This project had provided for pedestrian improvements and safe routes to school. So the schools that were in focus on this project was Hollywood High School and Selma Avenue Selma Avenue Elementary School. What we did was we replaced sidewalk, curb and gutters, curb extensions, We added pedestrian lighting, street lighting. We added street furniture, street trees, landscaping, brand new signals, pavement markings, continental crosswalks. There were some speed humps, bicycle boxes, and loop detectors and medians. This project was awarded for $5,563,007.24, with a contingency of $556,300, which gave us a total authorized budget of $6,119,307.24. Now, in this project, there were 22 change orders that were issued, which increased the amount of the contract 7.2% above the awarded amount, but it was still 2.5% below the final contract amount. So our final contract amount was $5,964,064,374.41. On March 24th, 2020, the contractor completed the final corrections. The final release of retained funds took place August 12th, 2020. The funding for this project was the Transportation Grant Fund and the local Transportation Fund. Our contractor has complied with all of the equal employment opportunity and labor compliance requirements of this contract. There are no disputed or withheld funds. There are no funds due to the contractor, and there are no unresolved property owner complaints in connection with this project. The contractor performance evaluation reports have been submitted. Therefore, we are recommending that the board accept this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Any questions, colleagues?
Yeah, Mr. Bagby, this was a federally funded project, correct?
That is correct. This project is federally funded, so it's subject to our Disadvantaged Enterprise Program. What was nice about this project, the advertised DBE goal was 21%. The bidder pledged 38%, but actually achieved 45%. So those are very nice numbers to report on a project like this.
Great. Now, you also mentioned that, in fact, the funds came from the local transportation budget. Explain that as it relates to it being federally funded. So when you say it came from the local, what do you mean that the local, somebody approved it locally, or I'm trying to understand local transport?
I don't have the details on those funding sources. I just know what funding sources fund our projects.
I see.
We can look into that if you want more details regarding that.
I just wanted to understand it. Okay. You can call me back later, Tim. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now I want to understand it.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
That may be, I don't know, I won't say that. All right, any other questions, colleagues? All right, do I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Anybody got a second?
I'll second.
Usually y'all are jumping through the screen at me. I got Villegas on the second. Any concerns, Garcia or Colosa? All right, hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. Mr. Bagby, I have a sneaking suspicion you are on items 6 and 7 as well, aren't you?
That's correct.
All right, here we go. Item 6, contract award, HVS Inc., DBA HVS Construction, Sanborn Avenue, reconstruction near Washington Boulevard Street improvement. Recommending the board, 1, find JED Construction, first low bidder, and Powell Inc., DBA XL Paving Company, second low bidder, to be non-responsive as discussed in this report. 2, receive and file transmittal numbers 2 and 4. 3, find transmittal number 3 to be unmerited as discussed in this report. 4, declare HZS Engineering Inc., DBA HZS HZS Construction, third low bidder, to be the lowest responsible bidder and award HZS a contract for this project for $695,879.70. And four, authorize the president or two members of the board to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney, work order E1908465. And I see Stephen Chen. I think you're going to likely report, and then Mr. Bagby, assume you're on the.
Actually, it's going to be Linda McGlinchey's here to help present this.
Roosevelt, I think I was looking ahead at item 7 a second, so we'll be back to you, my friend.
Okay.
Good morning, still, Mr. Chen and Ms. McGlinchey. How are y'all?
Good morning, President Good and Commissioners. Thank you. So the item here today before you is to recommend award the contract for the Sanborn Avenue reconstruction near Washington Boulevard Street to HZS Engineering. This project, to give you a quick summary, is along Sanborn Avenue, just north of Washington Boulevard. Currently, there's a lot of flooding and ponding, which has created a safety hazard for vehicles. And so what this project will be doing is we'll reconstruct the sidewalk, curb and gutter, driveways, and the street pavement as well. We anticipate the contract a duration to be about 9 months for this work. The city engineer's estimate for this contract was $579,243. We received 4 bids on February 16th, 2021. Again, we're recommending award to the third low bidder, which is HZS Construction, for $695,879. This project is funded with the Road Maintenance and Rehab Fund, also known as SB1, and is also funded with the Public Works Trust Fund. All 3 low bidders have been notified of this board hearing today. Linda McGlinchey from the Bureau of Contract Administration is here to discuss the bid review, as we did receive some correspondence from the low bidder, JED Construction. Go ahead, Linda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, as Steve mentioned, JED Construction staff reviewed their BIP evaluation, which they passed. However, they failed to meet the mandatory subcontracting minimum. This is because they failed to list subcontractors with their bid as is required. Unfortunately, it appears that they confused the Business Inclusion Program summary sheet requirements, which allow them to complete the summary sheet by 4:30 p.m. the day after bid, with the actual listing of subcontractors forms that are required to be submitted with the bid. And it is very clear, the form states that failure to list subcontractors and subcontracting amounts on pages 1-6 through 1-8 with the bid sufficient to meet or exceed the MSM may cause the bid to be rejected by the Board of Public Works as non-responsive. So as a result of their not submitting that and listing subcontractors, we have a pledged MSM for this project from them of 0% and are recommending that their bid be deemed non-responsive. Calp Inc. or Excel, the second low bidder, pledged MSM of 18.96%. They also failed the MSM requirement for this project. We notified PALP of that failure, and they basically responded that they understood that they failed to meet the requirement, and so we are now recommending that HZS, third low bidder, who passed their BIP evaluation and met the MSM requirement, be awarded the contract.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGlinchey. So, thank you, Mr. Chen. Let's open this up. Commissioner Villegas, any questions?
Thank you for the thorough explanation. I have no questions. Was clear to me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Vice President Garcia.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Linda. And oh my God, I think I lost you on my screen, Mr. Chen, for the report. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President Good. Can you remind me again, Ms. McGlinchey, is Jed and Palp, are they first-time bidders? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Palp definitely is not a first-time bidder. Jed, I am not sure.
Okay.
Yes, I would have to check on that.
Okay, no worries. I was just curious, and I know we talked about this item. I'm disappointed they didn't meet our, minimum subcontracting requirements. It's always disappointing to see that happen, especially since the first low bid was 15% below the estimate, and this is resulting in us awarding a contract to a bid that's 20% over our estimate, which is not an insignificant amount. It's quite high. But I understand what happened, and I think BCA and BOE did a good job sorting out what was a bit of a complicated bidding process for this, given some of the irregularities that you talked about. So I don't have any further questions, but I just want to note that I'm disappointed to see what happened, not in part from the city side, but from the bids that we received. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. President Pro Tem Davis. Mike, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I don't have any questions on the report. It's been made pretty clear to me in terms of what she has discussed with us. It's always difficult to achieve all what we have to achieve and strike a healthy balance and compliance, that sometimes the real low bids don't include some of the core values that we have to fulfill as we think about BIP and all those other things. So her report as a result has been very clear to me, and I'll be more than happy to move the motion, Mr. President, if there aren't any other comments.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I appreciate the report. It was very clear, and I agree. It's very interesting moments where the adherence to this counts. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. Any objections or concerns, Villegas or Garcia?
None for me, thank you.
All right. Hearing no concerns, the item is adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Linda. Colleagues, I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. We will reconvene at 11:30 in the a.m. All right, everybody?
Yes, sir.
See y'all shortly.
For all those staying on the line, the Board of Public Works will now reconvene. We'll go to recess for 5 minutes, and we will be back in 5 minutes. If you are staying on the line, the City Council audio line is still open and live to the public. Thank you. Mr. President, you are now in record mode.
All right. Okay. Hi, colleagues. Let's reestablish quorum. Dr. Campos, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is 11:35 a.m. for Friday, June 4th. We're reestablishing quorum and roll call for the day. We have President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum. Mr. President, also just a reminder, you have gone through items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. I believe item 5 has not yet been considered.
You are correct. Thank you. Thank you. And that's what Mr. Bagby is being very patient and gracious with my poor wrangling or management.
He's here on 7 as well. He's here on 7 as well. So
I know. That's I actually sort of had it right. When I said there were 3, I just called the wrong number. So anyway, thanks, Dr. Campos. Let's go back to item number 5. Item number 5. Dr. Campos, did we reestablish quorum?
Yes, we did.
Okay, great. So item number 5 is a contract acceptance, Soto Street Bridge over Mission Road and Huntington Drive Bridge removal and street realignment project, federal project number BHLS-5006-283, recommending the board accept this contract. Work order E70071F, E7003000F. Mr. Bagby.
All right. We're always good for the option play, so no worries.
Thank you, sir.
Another recommendation for the board to accept this contract. This is the Soto Street Bridge over Mission Road and Huntington Drive. Called for the removal of a bridge and to realign the streets. On July 17th, 2013, this board executed a construction contract with Pulp Incorporated, DBA Excel Paving Company. On November 17th, 2017, the contractor completed the field work. This project took place in Council District 14. The location is right where Mission Road, Soto Street, and Huntington Drive all converge and come together. So what we did when we started this project, we removed the existing Pacific Electric Railway Soto Street Bridge, and then we realigned those 3 streets at grade and provided a signalized intersection. We added bike lanes, brand new sidewalks are provided, brand new roadway. We had 2 new cul-de-sacs that we installed, and a beautiful open space public park with a public steel structure of steel butterflies. In fact, it's entitled by one of our local artists, the all steel metaphor. This beautiful public space is a real nice buffer between the residential neighborhood and that busy intersection. There is also a tribute to Pacific Railway. We saved one of the rails and cut it and put it into a monument there in the park. This project was awarded for $9,169,000, $69,044.20. There's a contingency of $1,833,808.80. Gave us an authorized budget of $11,002,853. On October 24, 2016, the board adopted the Bureau of Engineering's report number 1, which increased our contingency funding by $394,000, which gave us a new revised budget of $11,396,853. Now, there were 81 change orders that were issued on this contract, increasing the amount of the project by $1,839,673.31. That's 20% higher than the awarded amount, 3.4% lower than the authorized budget, bringing the final contract amount to $11,008,717.51. Now, what took place on this project? A lot of unforeseen conditions. Number 1, we had a lot of contaminated soil beneath the street that we had to contend with to excavate it out and replace it with clean fill. We also had the underneath the existing roadway was a whole nother roadway that was not recorded. So we had additional concrete and asphalt that we had to remove out of this area. Now that impacted when we could relocate the utilities. So that was out of sequence. And then we had to make sure that we minimized the impact to all the businesses that were in that area. So all these things kind of culminated, and that's why we had this increase in cost. But the contractor was able to handle all that. We got it all done. November 17th, 2017, the contractor completed all final corrections. The final release of retained funds took place June 12th, 2019. This project was funded by the HVP Construction Right-of-Way Utility Relocation Fund and also the RSTP Construction Fund. Our contractor has complied with all of the equal employment opportunity, labor, compliance requirements of this contract. There are no funds disputed or withheld. There are no funds due to our contractor, and there are no unresolved property owner complaints in connection with this project. The contractor performance evaluation reports have been submitted. Therefore, we are recommending acceptance of this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Really appreciate that. Vice President Garcia, any questions?
Thank you, President Good. No questions for me. Thank you, Mr. Bagby, for your report.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. As somebody who used to live in the El Sereno area, I really appreciated the project. I'm glad that it is done and it is really, really efficient for traffic flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. President Pro Tem Davis.
No questions, inquiries for me on the item. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. And Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President Good. No questions for me. Thank you for your report, Mr. Bagby.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bagby. I don't have any questions either. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion from Vice President Garcia, a second from President Pro Tem Davis.
I think it was Villegas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The intonation probably sounded like Garcia.
Well, if I'm looking here and I hear it's the,
We'll give it to Villegas. Last time it was me, but Villegas took it, so we're good.
So, motion by Villegas, seconded by Davis. Any concerns, Garcia? Close. All right. My goofiness notwithstanding, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank y'all. Thank you, Roosevelt. Let's go to item. I don't want to mess this one up. Item 7. Item 7 is another contract acceptance. This is in CDs 8 and 10. Sidewalk repair program. Small sidewalk repair access request acceleration package number 4. Recommending the board accept this contract work order E1908692. Mr. Bagby, proceed.
This also is a recommendation to accept this construction contract. This is part of our small sidewalk repair program acceleration package number 4. February 18th, 2020, the board executed a contract with a company entitled Little Potato Incorporated. April 7th.
Best name ever.
Excuse me?
Sorry, I said best name ever. Sorry.
Yes. April 7th, 2020, there was a notice to proceed issued. August 11th, 2020, the contractor completed the field work. This work took place in Council Districts 8 and 10. The location was in the Western Avenue, Martin Luther King Boulevard area. The project reconstructed sidewalks to ensure that they comply with the American Disability Act standards. It included removing sidewalks, driveway, curb and gutter, small portions of the roadway. This project was awarded for $65,216 with a not-to-exceed amount of $99,999. There were 5 change orders issued on this contract, which increased the amount of the contract 3.9% above the awarded amount and 32% below the not-to-exceed amount. That brought a final contract amount to $67,747.13. On August 11th, 2020, our contractor completed the final corrections. Final release of retained funds took place December 16th, 2020. The funding for this project came from the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Program. Our contractors complied with the Equal Employment Opportunity labor compliance requirements of this contract. There are no funds that are disputed or withheld. There are no funds due to our contractor, and there are no unresolved property owner complaints in connection with this project. The contractor performance evaluation reports have been submitted. Therefore, we are recommending acceptance of this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Questions, President Pro Tem Davis?
In terms of who's doing the work on this project, who is the work being targeted towards on this project, Mr. Bagley?
We are looking for, in this small sidewalk repair, we're looking for small contractors. And
okay.
So this small, little potato, which is kind of fits, has 5 certifications, DBE certifications for his company. He hired 2 subcontractors, one of which was certified as a small local contractor. So this program that the board has established allows us to provide opportunities to smaller companies to participate in public works construction.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Vice President Garcia?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. No questions for me. I agree with President Good. Great firm name. You should see it more often, just so you can say it, Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Davis?
Thank you. I don't have any questions either. I appreciate your report, Mr. Bagby.
Thank you.
My only question, and I'm sorry, Michael may have asked this. Actually, this was not part of community contractors because this was pre that, wasn't it? Yeah. But it's great that it's in the
It is an outcome of it.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, great. And I think
in October 21st, 2016, the board established a program where we had on-call contractors that we could use to perform these sidewalk repairs. So they're from that program there.
Mm-hmm. And our policy reflected this particular program and made it a more widespread implementation.
Right. This was sort of the
pilot.
This was the John Reamer, Hannah Choi, Roosevelt
Mm-hmm.
special that led us
exactly
to the wisdom of expansion. Yeah, got it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right, little potato. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I was watching closely. All right, that was Garcia. Any objections or further questions? Closer Vegas. All right, hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. And I believe that's got you covered, Mr. Bagby, yes?
Yes, I just get to listen now.
All right, which is scintillating stuff, I know. All right, now we go to item number 8. Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Item number 8, monthly renewal contract option, USA Waste of California, Inc., DBA Waste Management, recommending the board exercise the month-to-month option for up to 6 months from May 9, 2021 until November 8, 2021 to the contract of USA Waste of California, Inc., DBA Waste Management for the receipt, processing, and reuse of green material, food material, and/or forest manure from the City of Los Angeles' curbside collection program. Work order S02MT-IPG and C-127499. Looks like Mr. Ruska is with us on this item.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, President Good and Commissioners. James Ruska, Environmental Engineering Associate 3 with LA Sand and Environment. As you mentioned, LA Sand is requesting authority to exercise a month-to-month renewal option up to 6 months with USA Waste of California doing business as Waste Management. This is for contract C-127499 for the receipt, processing, and reuse of green material, food material, and horse manure. For some background on this contract, LA Sign contracted with Waste Management back in May 9th of 2016 for the mulching of our yard waste. The contract was executed for 5 years with 2 5-year renewal options, and we have just had the first 5-year term expire on May 8th of this year. Green bin material that's collected from 750,000 single-family households is processed by Waste Management at 2 of their facilities. They have the Sun Valley Recycling Park up in the valley, which handles material that's collected directly from both the West Valley and East Valley waste sheds. Their second facility is the Waste Transfer Recycling Center, which is down close to downtown, and that manages the transportation of material from our West LA and North Central waste sheds. The combined total of material that Waste Management processes is approximately 1,000 tons per day of green waste, and that's about 63% of the total green waste that we collect citywide. Over the course of the first 5-year term of the contract, Waste Management has successfully done the process to remove contaminants from the green waste and then do the chipping and grinding to produce a mulch product, which is then marketed out to farmers for beneficial use throughout LA County as well as in Riverside County. However, over the course of the last 5 years, changes in regulations as well as markets for using the finished mulch product has impacted their ability to market the material as well as the cost that they've had to operate. Additionally, new legislation with the implementation of SB 1383 and different procurement requirements included in 1383 that target organic waste-derived materials continue to change the market for all these types of materials, including mulch, compost, all these types of materials that are beneficially produced from the recycling of organic waste. Because of this, Waste Management has indicated that they cannot continue the existing terms of the contract and need to increase the processing fees that were proposed from the first 5 years in order to keep up with demand for the market. Therefore, we couldn't just renew the existing terms of the contract for another 5 years. Currently, LA Sand and Waste Management are still working to amend the contract to include those additional costs that they're looking for, as well as to increase the contract cost ceiling to carry us through the next term. However, in order to continue providing the green waste processing, as I mentioned, Waste Management handles about 60% of what we collect. We would like to go through the process currently to extend the existing terms of the contract on a month-to-month basis up to 6 months while we work to get the contract executed, or the amendment executed. So we would continue with the existing terms through November 2021, be able to continue paying them at the existing terms of the contract, and then once the amendment is in place and executed, we'll be able to pay Waste Management back for the 6-month period at the new rates, as well as continue the next term of the contract through that time period. So as a result, that's why we are requesting the month-to-month renewal option up to 6 months through November of this year. Additionally, we are requesting a 10% increase in the contract cost ceiling. This was already allowed per the original term of the contract. And this 10% is just to get us through that 6-month period to ensure that we have the sufficient funding to cover the processing of the material should we go through November before the amendment is executed. And with that, I will answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Mr. Oscar. Okay, Commissioner Beauty.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Roscoe, for your report. It was really thorough. I have a question. Is it better to go through this process of that 6-month extension, and then you all negotiate the amendment to the, I guess, that 5-year extension, and then come back? Is that financially feasible for us, or as a RFP more is an RFP process better suited to see what the market has?
So it is better for us to go through this current month-to-month extension as well as renewing for an additional term. And that's just because we do need to continue processing the material through Waste Management, so we do have the need to amend as they handle a large portion of our green process of still doing an RFP as well for the overall organic system. As I mentioned with SB 1383 and its implementation, we're having to tackle not just the green waste that we currently collect, but also items such as food waste and diverting that material from the black bin. And we've had a number of pilots and projects working at addressing the food waste component of the waste stream. So we are working on preparing and releasing an RFP, which would then kind of take us to the next step, either past the amendment that we're doing with waste management or could transition at that point. But given the time that we would also need to, release the RFP, solicit responses, and do the review, we would definitely want to continue having waste management on through this extension and its amendment.
Okay, I understand. I see the need, and just because they've been doing this for us for some time now, it would help us just to remain with them as you'll probably learn just other information from now until the RFP is released, and then the information that you'll receive back from any potential bidders. So I don't have any questions. That was all of my concern. I appreciate it. Thank you for your report. It was really clear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russ. Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Colosa.
Thank you, President Good. Thank you for your report, Mr. Braska. Just had a few questions for you. So the contract term expired last month. What's been happening since then? Have we still been processing the material, or has there just been a stop in services?
Yes, so Waste Management has continued processing the material for us. Once the contract extension is approved, we will retroactively pay Waste Management back to that May 9th date. And then that will allow us to continue the services through the next 6 months. And then additionally, once we have the contract amendment executed, we will then also retroactively pay Waste Management the difference or the delta on the increased cost back to May 9th for the services from that time period.
Okay, and so did we know that we were essentially it sounds like we're under a renegotiation of the contract essentially, right?
Yes, so we have been in communication with Waste Management since last October, going through the process. We were aiming to have the contract amendment in place prior to the expiration of the first 5-year term, but just due to the amount of back and forth as well as negotiation in rates, it looked like we wouldn't reach it in time for the May 9th date, which is why we went through this month-to-month extension, just so that we can continue service and pay Waste Management while we do finalize the amendment.
And so I guess I know the amendment, the new contract that you're negotiating now, that will come to board, right?
Yes.
Okay. I guess one of the things I'm confused about, and I can ask you when this item comes before board again for this extension, is I guess my understanding was that the reason why we put these large contracts in place for such a long period of time is so that we have fixed rates. And these increased costs, I guess I'm a little concerned about what is going to return to us and what's going to result from this contract. Is that common for the contractor to renegotiate these prices when they have, essentially a 15-year contract?
So I can't speak to how common it is, and you're right, we do try to negotiate these long-term contracts to ensure that we have that rate stability. I think one of the challenges with this is that when we first released the original RFP to execute this contract, that was back in, I believe, 2013, and the contract was executed in early 2016. Since that time, as I mentioned with SB 1383 being passed, regulation has changed what the common practice and what kind of the realm of organic waste management looks like. And that is kind of what has constituted this change and kind of that need to address cost as well as, like as you mentioned, right, the uncertainty of how we're going to handle the material. I think that's why we wanted to be thorough in our process of doing the negotiation, because we do know that it is increased cost. And I think to the point of Commissioner Villegas, that is why we're also looking to do the RFP with kind of the scope of food waste in mind, so that we can't have that stability in both the rate and the processing moving forward.
Commissioner, if I can also add, well, first of all, we concur in the Bureau's recommendation. I'm looking at the contract right now. As you indicated, this potential 15-year contract. The contract actually, the option provisions in the contract are a little different than what we sometimes see. And this renewal option actually has to be exercised at the mutual agreement of the city and contract. Oftentimes, in other contracts, we see options that are at the city's sole discretion, which means we can literally just extend the contract, same terms and conditions. In this case, and I assume it's due to the sort of complexity of the services and the long-range nature of this. The option is in the mutual agreement of the city and the contractor, which then brings up the issue of the ability of the contractor or even the city, if it wanted, to renegotiate. So it's a little bit different, and I think that's sort of part of the background on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. It's helpful. I think obviously there's a benefit to having the city do it at its sole discretion, but I know that not all contracts are black and white like that, given the nature of the industry. I don't think I have any more questions for you, Mr. Rosca, but I would like a briefing before you return to board for the amendment. If you can please follow up.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Corso. Thank you, Ted. President Pro Tem Davis.
I wanted to ask, did you say that the food waste is the newest variable that is being performed by the vendor in this contract?
No, Commissioner Davis. So waste management does not handle the food waste portion. My reference to food waste is that's part of the overall SB 1383, the new legislation that's addressing organic waste. And kind of that overall legislation and its implementation has started to kind of shape the markets and the ability to process these types of materials. So waste management only currently processes the yard trimming, so kind of the more green waste that we currently collect, as well as some horse manure. But the food waste component is not something they currently manage. That kind of then further to the point with Commissioner Villegas as well, the need to then release an RFP so that we can address this wider scope of materials under organics.
I see. And so in terms of doing that, that would certainly open us up for a renegotiation with the vendor in this case.
Yes, and I think that's also part of the reason it took us so long or why we've had such a back and forth with waste while we've been doing our current amendment, is trying to then include or address that food waste portion. They still have not added or offered any option for food waste under the amendment, but they, as well as many other vendors, are still continuing to look at, how they're going to address that type of waste stream. So yes, we could then, through the RFP, should waste have a new option for food waste, then be able to propose that under the new RFP as well.
When we engaged in the initial agreement, it was 3 5-year terms, correct?
Yes.
And then at that time, we did not have anything in the agreement that would fixate the rate at that time. We didn't say in that original agreement for 3 5-year terms that the rate would be at this certain fee. We never said that, correct?
So we set a fee for the first year, and then the contractor was allowed to take CPI each year after that. If we were to continue on the existing terms, then they would have just continued to take CPI even for the next 5 and then the 5-year term after that. But the contractor has come back saying that the CPI rate adjustment wouldn't be sufficient to cover, the changes in their cost and operation, given all these changes with legislation in the markets.
Okay, so that was a flexibility provision that was in our original agreement with the vendor, that they would have this opportunity for CPI and thus also have an opportunity to adjust subsequent 5-year contracts that would be compatible with the market, I guess, if you will.
Yes, essentially, and I think that's why the contract was written with kind of that flexibility in the language, as well as renegotiating or determining things at the end of each 5 years.
And so obviously we have various contracts that are in some regards similar in terms of the fact that they're doing this sanitation work. As you've referred to the black bin, and I guess we have what this is the green bin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we have the blue bin. And so my question to you is there some standard of similar contracts for all of them, or are each of them, or does every tub stand on its own bottom, if you will? Are each of them separate and different in terms of what we require of the contracts? In terms of the black, in terms of the blue?
Yeah, I would say that they each do have their kind of own unique aspects to them, especially with other changes that have happened. So example, for our blue bin, and I believe with the changes in the markets for blue bin, we've seen similar changes in the way that our contracts are written, as well as having to work with the vendors to kind of, capture all that flexibility and variability that happens in the way that they do their business. And that is in some ways similar to the green bin, but also very unique to the management of that type of material. So we try to keep consistency because, we do manage the contracts for all three of them, but they definitely each have their own unique aspects to them, as well as even unique aspects to each of the individual vendors we contract with.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any question. Mr. Roscoe has answered a lot of questions from my colleagues that has made it even clearer. Thank you so much, and that's all for me.
Yeah, I appreciate Commissioner Villegas and Commissioner Close's and President Pro Tem Davis' line of inquiry there. Just again, for the record, Ted, City Attorney recommends or approves of this?
Yes, we concur with the Bureau's recommendation.
Okay. And just, actually, I said I had nothing, and now I do have one. So going back to, I think, Commissioner Villegas' question. So we are working on a meta RFP on organics that is in particular food waste, and that's a piece of the compliance and process for 1383 compliance. That won't affect the ultimate outcome of this renegotiated price frame for this extension, correct? That'll be separate.
Yes, that's correct. So we've already done the negotiation with waste for the term of this amendment, and so that's already in place. And then whatever responses we get back on the RFP will then allow us to make future judgment on what options we have and which vendors we could then do future contracting with to address that kind of meta overall scope of organic waste.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's helpful. Hello, Mr. Potter. Okay. I'm good. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. Right? Sorry. Any concerns or follow-up questions, Garcia or Davis?
None for me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rosca. Hearing no objections, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
All right. That brings us to item number 11. Having continued items 9 and 10, let's go to item number 11. Item number 11 is an authority for expenditure. The Water Research Foundation, Bureau of Sanitation, and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $113,886 to pay for subscription dues for the period of November 1, 2020 to October 31, 2021. Authority or AE 21760942M, Fund 760, Sewer Operations and Maintenance Fund,
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Good afternoon now, so go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. My name is Hee-Sang Kim of LSN Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. I'm here to request your approval for the payment of $113,886 to the Water Research Foundation for its annual subscription. The Water Research Foundation, also known as WRF, is a non-profit research foundation whose goal is to fund applied research important to water utilities in the areas of wastewater, water recycling, stormwater management, biosolids, as well as drinking water. WRF is supported by over 1,200 utilities, consultants, and manufacturers from this country and internationally. Locally, the subscribers include LA SAN, LA DWP, LA County Sanitation District, Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, and Orange County Sanitation District, plus many more. The research reports funded by WRF are only available to the subscribers. Therefore, the $113,886 that LASAN is requesting to pay allows us to access the research reports. Some of the reports may be related to food waste management. WRF hosts a research library with more than 2,300 completed projects valued almost $1 billion. Again, the library is only open to the subscribers, which LASN has been a member for over 20 years. WRF brings together research studies done by leading utilities and the greatest researchers and make them available to the subscribers. As we know, research is very expensive and time-consuming. It requires expertise that LASN alone cannot afford. It's a great value for the customers of Los Angeles Sanitation. To name some studies that LASN benefited recently includes energy optimization at water reclamation plants, in-depth study on water recycling processes and other alternatives, many studies on biosolids management. The subscription fee is based on the daily flow of LASN. Los Angeles being the second largest city in the country, LASN would have to pay over $150,000 per year. However, we negotiated with WRF to a much lower fee. I can answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Colleagues, do we have questions? President Pro Tem Davis.
Yes, very, very important that we continue to have resources and lines of communication to get research and data to help to continue to effectively and efficiently manage our water needs. You mentioned a number of different municipalities and water organizations in our region. Is this water research foundation national in scope, or is it regional in scope?
It is national. Not only national, but international.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, pretty much all the large utilities, not only Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, you name. We are all members.
Sure. You mentioned drinking water is one of our research focuses coming out of this organization. You also mentioned wastewater, and I guess some of the research has centered around how we are able to transform wastewater into usable water, I guess, in our areas. Correct?
Yes, that's water recycling, which I mentioned, but I spoke real fast. And then other areas, such as we discussed before.
Sure.
Previous item, food waste. I mean, food has a lot of energy value. The spin waste is taking up, landfill spaces, release greenhouse gas, methane. But there's value to recover, and how others do, how we can, optimize. And we don't want to repeat all the work that others did. We want to learn from others and, change to best of our application.
Sure, I've noticed that other water agencies in our region value the ability to be able to effectively get work done from wastewater in terms of its usages. The other thing that I've noticed in our regional water agencies is this whole possibilities of what can be achieved in rainwater capture. Has that been some area of research coming out of the WRF to your knowledge as well?
I need to do a study.
Okay, all right.
Capturing, rainwater. I'm pretty sure there should be some studies on, how to best manage the stormwater. There's a lot of stormwater going out to the ocean without really we get benefit out of it.
Correct, and also would in fact the capture assist us in terms of our needs for securing water in other areas? Is it possible that we could capture enough of rainwater to make a difference in terms of our water needs? The final thing I wanted to ask you about our association with WRF is in terms of the collaboration we have with other agencies around this issue of water. Have there been any recognitions that the WRF gives out for municipalities that belong, or members, if you will, who have demonstrated kind of projects that have reflected excellence in the work that they have done? Does the WRF recognize member organizations for their work in water?
Basically, the way WRF works is, the members, agencies, manufacturers pay membership fee, and WRF determine how the money is to be used. A lot of universities, big municipalities apply for grant, research grant, and then WRF review and award the research grants like UCLA and sanitation and LASM. We've in the past worked together, securing WRF fund, or at least try. Not every time we are successful, and that's how WRF works. Collect the membership. Again, it's a non-profit organization. Collect the membership fee and distribute it for right projects, and then share the project with all the other members.
Wonderful. So it's a great professional development opportunity that we have in our membership, which we've been long to for years. So thank you so much for engaging me in terms of the benefits of our membership with WRF. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Davis. Commissioner Closa?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Kim. I appreciated Dr. Davis's definitely brought out his PhD today on asking all these research questions. I appreciated it. I don't have any questions for you, Mr. Kim.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. Commissioner Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any other. Well, actually, I have a basic question. Mr. Kim, is this the same amount we pay pretty much every year?
Pretty much every year we pay about this much, but there's, inflation or adjustment. Last year we paid maybe 2 to 3% less.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, it's trickled down. All right, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas, you there? Actually, she's not right there.
I am. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. have questions. I find this research fascinating and much needed. This like it, as you know, someone who is chairing the Upper LA River Watershed Stakeholder Committee. You know, we've funded Cal Poly to do studies on stormwater capture using dry wells, and I would be curious to, you know, have access to this research, library, to be able to see what other best management practices are for stormwater capture, but also just for water supply. And so that's one comment. But I did have a question in terms of, as the board, we're approving this budget to be able to have our bureaus have access, or sanitation have access to this, library. I'm wondering if the board of Public Works, how is it that we can have access to this library as well for research, for reading of reports, or just learning what others do?
Okay, you have to have a username and password, and I will work on those and provide the access to you, the president and commissioners.
Thank
we
you.
We probably can ask the department representative the task that we want to have requested to do it for us, since they are the members.
That's also possible.
That's really
So maybe that's easier for commissioners. Sometimes, accessing, going through this library can be confusing.
right.
So maybe
we should collaborate with the members.
Okay, sure, no problem. I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to, have access to it, use it, just take advantage of this resource for us as decision makers as well. Thank you.
Sure. So my first work will be on studies on stormwater capture. How about that? And then I report back to the board members.
Or to Commissioner Villegas, who's making a specific request.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's also have access to the actual library.
Sure. We'll work on that. We'll contact you, Commissioner.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Wonderful that you brought this to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas, and thank you, Mr. Kim. Vice President Garcia, did you have any questions? Or I already asked you, right? Okay, so everyone's had their wax. All right. Anybody do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have any follow-up questions, Garcia or Calosa? All right, hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you very much, Mr. Kim.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I need to step away for 2 seconds. Vice President Garcia will take the virtual gavel, and I will be right back.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm gonna have to share screen, so I'm sorry if I'm gonna, just give me 1 second to get back on my agenda here. 1 minute, because I lost my agenda now, of course. One second. Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. If you'd like, I can go ahead and read.
Oh no, I got it. I'm sorry. It was when I was trying to. I have my tablet, but my tablet died on me in the middle of the meeting, so I had to now do like different tabs on my computer.
I was trying to buy you a minute or two there.
There we go. I'm ready now. It's number 12. All right. Item number 12. This is in all council districts. This is an AFE Legacy Byproducts LLC for a request from the Bureau of Sanitation and the Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority of expenditure in the amount of $58,784.25 to a new adjusted amount of $78,780,000 to encumber additional funds to pay for the recovery and processing services of dead animals. Authorize the president or two members of the Board of Public Works to execute the service agreement. This is an AE 21508009M Fund 508 Solid Waste Resources Fund Department Number 50 Appropriation Unit 50TX82. And with that, I believe we have Mr. Isaac presenting on this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and I guess Madam President for the time being, interim. Good afternoon, City Attorneys, Dr. Campos, and Bureau representatives. My name is Nat Isaac. I'm I'm an SRSSD project engineer managing the LA Sanitation Dead Animal Recovery Program for over the past 15 years. And LA San is requesting the approval today of an amendment to the AFE with Legacy Byproducts Incorporated for the processing of all dead animals collected by the City of LA's Dead Animal Recovery Program to be made into beneficial reuse. As a background, LA San manages all the collection of dead animals from city residents, public streets, alleys, waterways, city-operated animal shelters, and parks and recs. Dead animals include small animals under 400 pounds, which are collected by LA San crews, and they also include larger animals, which are collected by the contractor Legacy as part of our AE, our AFE, and a letter of agreement. Currently, the city collects about 870 pounds of dead animals each day from throughout the city. And these dead animals have been disposed of at Legacy, which was previously owned and known as West Coast Rendering for the past 75 years. About a year ago, West Coast Rendering decided to close down, and Legacy went ahead and purchased their assets and began operating at the same facility and doing the same services for the City of LA. Legacy is the only facility in Southern California that recycles 100% of the dead animals it collects. And it collects all types of dead animals. That is, animals that are collected from the animal shelters, which are euthanized, animals collected from the streets, animals that are sick and dying wherever they're found. Out of the 5 locations that do process dead animals in the City of LA, Legacy is the only one that does all of them. The other ones only do domesticated animals or animals for food purposes. So Legacy has a contract currently under letter of agreement with City of LA, number 215-08009M. In early 2020, we entered into that LOA with Legacy, but it was under $20,000 as we were planning. Just before that, we were planning to do a 5-year contract with West Coast Rendering, but they decided to close down. And once they closed down, we ran and scrambled to get a letter of agreement together with Legacy quickly so we can continue services. And we did, but those funds have exhausted because Legacy's rates went up considerably from West Coast Rendering, and their rates are $500 per ton to process and recover all the dead animals into beneficial reuse. So our funding exhausted at the end of September, and we've been trying to prepare this and get this AFE approved to cover the remainder of the year, which goes through June 30th. So with that, we're requesting the board's approval for this AFE. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Isaac, for your report. I will take it, just one question that I do have. So it was 500 tons of, that's what it's costing us now. What was it before?
Before it was $190 per ton.
Wow.
And that partly was, the reason for that was that the facility, West Coast Rendering, was able to take multiple tonnages of materials from different sources. They were collecting about 50 tons per day from throughout Southern California. Unfortunately, part of the reason they closed was a rule 415 from the Air Quality Management District that was passed in 2017 that required them by 2019, 2020 to comply with enclosures and air quality improvements. They could not financially do that at their old rates, and they decided instead of raising their rates to close down. So the new facility, the new ownership came in and they said they'll continue it on, they'll try, but they'll have to raise their rates, and so they did.
Wow. All right. Okay. Any questions, colleagues? We'll start with Commissioner Calosa.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Thank you for your report, Mr. Isaac. I have a few questions on this item. It's a little concerning what happened here. Can you just explain when we knew that the prior firm that we were contracting with was going to dissolve?
So in January of 2020, they were given a notice of violation from the Air Quality Management District. And by February or March, they basically realized that they're not going to get out of the hefty fine from the Air Quality Management District. And they decided at that point that they were going to close down. And they put out a notice to anyone who was interested in buying the facility to offer a bid. So they basically did not sell and close on their sale deal until June of 2020, early June.
But we knew about the potential of this since January 2020.
Yes. Yeah.
So
and there were no other facilities that accept this type of material.
Sorry, this is Alex Hello with Sanitation. Nat, you want to explain all the work we've done behind the scenes with AQMD to have this facility and the stuff that we have went on? I mean, there was a lot of Commissioner Calosa bringing really great questions, and I think she needs to know all the stuff that was done behind the scenes to help keep this facility, do the improvements, the air emissions, everything else. I don't think you mentioned that in the presentation. Sorry.
So in 2017, as I mentioned, the AQMD came out with this rule, but the rule did not take effect until 2019. It gave them at least 2 years. And once in 2019, they had still not complied, that's when AQMD started to basically threaten them with violations if they don't put in their plans and do that. The facility at that point was deciding and deliberating whether they should continue on and do put the expenses forward to build the facility or not. But even so, at that point, there were no other facilities. There haven't been any other facilities to accept this type of material. I contacted over 88 cities to find out what their plans were to do in the event that this facility were to close, and none of them had any idea what they would do with the material. Obviously, it would be an issue for all of us if they closed down. And so we contacted AQMD, and we spoke to their representatives, their legal representatives. I believe it was Daphna Sue, and they were headstrong on basically issuing these violations to this facility because they were not complying with the rule, and they were not going to buckle on the rule regardless of the fact that this was the only facility in Southern California to accept this material. So basically our attempts fell on deaf ears.
So Commissioner, also, this is Robert Potter. So we continued along the process, and we intended to renew the contract. We had every intent hoping that the facility would maintain and do the improvement and stay in business. If they would have done all those things, we would have discontinued the contract at the port. It became a scramble once they had made that final decision as a business, which we didn't control, to just give up on the idea of improving the facility and then put it out for sale. At that point is when we started negotiating the AE, just so we can have continuity of service for our residents and our facilities that we provide these services to.
see it, your backup arrived, Mr. Isaac. Um, so, is this the same contract that Animal Services uses to dispose of dead animals as well? They use this contract that we formerly had in place. Is that correct?
Animal Services doesn't have a separate contract. They rely and piggyback on our benevolence to pick up their materials. LA Sand has been picking up Animal Services materials for many years now at no cost.
I don't think they heard you, Mr. Isaac. that. Okay, and then just so I'm clear, so now LA Sand's plan is to put together an RFP for a new contract, or this is how are we planning to proceed to provide this service moving forward? You know, I understand this is a scramble of a stopgap of what happened that was unexpected, but now knowing that this $500 rate is substantially more, it's over double than what we were paying previously, how are we going to amend the service moving forward?
So in 2015, we went out with an RFP. I believe it was 2015 or 2016. We went out with an RFP, and we received one proposal from guess who? The same company. So they were the only game in town. At that point, we just went out with an extension. We extended our contract. We had an amendment to renew for a 3-year period of time, so 2019. So we put that into effect and realized that there were no other vendors out there. We began preparing a sole source contract for another 5 years with the same company. And that would have taken effect at the expiration of the renewal contract, 2019. But we realized that they weren't going to sign a renewal. They weren't going to sign a sole source contract in 2019 because they already were under the gun from AQMD and were debating what they'd be doing. So they agreed to sign a letter of agreement that would carry us through June of 2020. And then by June of 2020 is when we found out that they were not going to continue on after that. And that's when we scrambled to create a new AE with the new company that did buy their facility, their assets, and continue their work. So the long-term process or long-term goal here is to go ahead with another sole source contract with the current facility and hope that they are more successful given their higher rates to cover their costs and more better compliance with the AQMD rules. Thus far, they've been showing themselves to be compliant with AQMD.
So you've checked with other municipalities nearby about what they do. You've checked with LA County.
LA County plus 88 cities. All of them either have decided to go with this facility or basically to use incineration, cremation, which is double the price that this facility is offering. So cremation goes for $1 a pound or $2,000 per ton. This one is at $500 per ton. So it's more expensive. And environmentally speaking, cremation does not provide the environmental benefit that this process does, this rendering facility. Rendering makes a beneficial reuse product, which is a fertilizer that can be used.
I don't want to belabor this. It took us down a rabbit hole here. But I know...
you said rabbit hole?
I didn't mean to use an animal.
A dead rabbit hole.
A metaphor. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
So, I'd love to talk with your team offline more about this. I'm just honestly astonished that there's no other service to provide, no other firm to provide this kind of service in all of Southern California and the 88 cities that you've contacted, because it's a pretty penny that, we're being charged here. But I understand what happened, and I appreciate you answering my questions. It just concerned me when I saw it here in one of the attachments that we had originally made a verbal agreement, with legacy byproducts, which is, very concerning to me to transparency that that's how we're conducting our business, even if it is, um, you know, something that we're scrambling to do given the sudden closure. But obviously, we had some indications of it as early as January. So that's why I had so many questions. But I'll touch base with your team offline. Thank you, Mr. Isaac, Mr. Hillu, Mr. Potter, Dr. Romano. You got some good backup here, Mr. Isaac.
Thank you, Commissioner Calosa. I'll say he has a posse with him. It's like everybody came out.
It's not a dead possum, right?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Wolverines travel in packs.
Yeah, there you can go. All right. Commissioner Villegas, I know you're here.
I am. I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm off camera. You know, COVID, there's no after school care, and, you know, kids get out at odd hours. So that's why I'm off, and I am like 10 minutes from my house, so I'll be back online. Thank you so much for that report, and I really appreciate Commissioner Calosa's questioning and just to shed light just a little bit more on the process and everything that sanitation has endured. I don't have any questions. It's very clear, and I love all the pundits. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. President Pro Temp Mike Davis?
Sure. I just wanted to ask an informational question. In terms of the scope of work, you mentioned the animals that we pick up. Does that include animals like coyotes and foxes as well? Because we get calls, believe it or not, from some areas where people have. A lady had a coyote in the backyard. You know, we call sanitation. So I didn't know if you did it or if wildlife did it.
No, we do it. In fact, we get calls for seals at the beach that are City of LA, you know, control. We get calls for mountain lions, coyotes, and many times our crews go into the homes of residents to help older residents who can't bring out a dog or a cat or reach into certain areas like in the backyard to retrieve the animal.
Sure.
So yeah, we do get those animals as well. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dr. Davis. And Mr. Isaac, if I'm not mistaken, I know I asked this during the briefing, what was the wildest or rarest animals we picked up? And if I'm not, you want to say it?
I guess it would be an elephant from the LA Zoo at one point.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Did he get away and go to somebody's yard or something?
Thank you so much for that. Any other, President Good, any questions from you? I almost skipped
This is
you.
one of the most entertaining, interesting $57,000 conversations that I have ever heard about. No.
You're lucky I didn't show any photographs.
I would have loved it.
Mr. Isaac, put away the 30 slide deck, right? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. No question. I take that back. I mean, this is really a bizarre situation for the region, apparently, to Commissioner Calosa's point. But at least, so again, and I apologize, I had to step away, so I missed part of the presentation, although y'all briefed me on this a while ago. The company that we're doing the AFE with, or that we want to do the work with now, temporarily at least, is they bought the original company, right? And they've increased prices to essentially, ostensibly, address the cost elements that led to the previous company potentially walking away from the business, that's where we're at right now. That's the gist.
That's correct. And the City of LA's material is a drop in the bucket compared to other cities and counties that use that facility. So even though our rates have gone up, our amount that we deliver is still quite small. We're talking about $78,000 a year, which is less than half a less than half a ton a day, about half a ton a day. So we're getting about 15 tons a month. 15 tons a month. So go figure, it's about 60 tons, let's say 15 tons a month times 12. Yeah, it's about a little over 200 tons, about 200 tons a year we're collecting compared to the other facilities, which are much larger. LA County has a contract with them for, I think, over $200,000 per month. I'm sorry, $20,000 per month. $20,000 per month for their, but they also do collection and they also do disposal. So they do both. So if the other cities and counties were to go somewhere else, this facility wouldn't survive, even with us. Even if we decided to go somewhere else, this facility could still survive with the other counties and cities.
And so we actually do pick up. We do pick up. We just pay for the rendering on site.
Correct.
We have specialized vehicles. Is that the deal?
That's correct. We have enclosed vehicles that are pretty much hermetically sealed so that they don't leak and they don't give out the odors. And the material's processed within 24 hours, within actually 4 hours of the time it's dropped on the ground. The state of California, CDFA, Department of Food and Agriculture. They are the ones that are in charge of permitting rendering facilities, and they've seen the slow closure of majority of rendering facilities throughout the country, throughout the state at least. And it's a phenomenon that's taking place throughout the country. But these facilities are not really making much money, especially from this type of animal stream. If they're taking chickens or cattle, that's one thing. They can still make profit out of that. One of the facilities in LA is called Darling, and Darling handles only edible material, material that can be used for animals like pet food and chicken feed. But this facility handles, the legacy facilities handles the animal shelter material, which is typically euthanized, has the chemical in it, and that cannot be used for any pet food because it continues on through the process. It doesn't get taken out of the process. So it's a challenge.
Indeed. Okay. Well, no, I have no other questions, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. Who knew that this item was so full of conversation, right? It made our Friday. And it's the last one too, by the way, so we're super excited about this.
And it's the first one under our new leadership, with the Barbara Romero as the new director of sanitation. So
appointed.
Sorry.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Let's move to.
Very good, Mr. Lisa.
Boy, I can't even go to the kitchen. Something new has happened.
Let's stay on that.
I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you. Any commissioners want to move a motion forward?
To do, I so moved.
The item.
Yeah, I so moved.
To go to the kitchen? Or
yeah, exactly. I so moved this item.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Any seconds?
I'll second it, sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Calosa. Any objections? President Good, Commissioner Villegas?
None from me.
Great. Hearing none, we'll approve this item and move it forthwith.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you everybody, the team of sanitation folks.
Thank you.
All right, President Good, back to you.
All right. Hard to top that one, but we can never count out Mr. Maxwell, who I think is with us today.
Actually, Mr. President, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, we should have Robert Sewell, or Sewell, S-E-W-E-L-L.
Sewell. Oh, Sewell.
Sewell.
Okay, Mr. Sewell.
Are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there he is. Robert's iPhone.
All right. Hi, Robert. Can we see your face?
Second, I'll have to adjust my camera. I'm out and about.
All right,
Kind of got this meeting last minute.
This is item 13. This is status update on major upcoming street improvement projects from the Bureau of Street Services. Mr. Sewell, if not, why don't you just go ahead and proceed?
I really don't have any new updates on anything new. We're finishing our program for the end of June. Looks like we're going to meet our program goals, even adding the 50 extra lane miles that were added to us at the end of the program. Other than that, for this fiscal year, no major new streets or construction going on until next year.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sewell. Any questions, colleagues?
No questions for me.
Okay. Hearing no questions, thank you very much, Mr. Sewell, and you go back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then item number 14, folks, specialized on-call maintenance services update from the Bureau of Sanitation. Is that Mr. Giacomo?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, President Good, Board Representatives, Bureau Representatives, Christopher Giacomo, Acting Sanitation Wastewater Manager 1 at Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. And I'm going to provide an oral report on the as-needed maintenance services contracts. Numbers Charlie 136181, Charlie 136182. So currently we have 6 notice to proceeds issued at a total cost of $109,000. And we have 4 projects that are in progress and they're awaiting quote building and some that require subcontractor addition to the contractor's Schedule A. That's really all I prepared for you right now.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Thanks for your patience. Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask one thing? These meetings were, the oral reports were previously discussed being quarterly, and the last one happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. Is there any way we could verify the interval gets reset to that quarterly time?
Mr. President, if I can take that, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Mr. Giacomo, thank you for flagging that. That's something that's been on the docket for the board to consider, the request from the Bureau of Sanitation. It's been on hold for maybe close to about 2 months now, but it is on our radar, and we will discuss that, and we will get back to the Bureau of Sanitation on regarding the frequency. And the request from sanitation was to reset it back to quarterly.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. No big deal. It's an easy one.
We haven't forgotten about you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Giacomo, and thank you, Dr. Campos. And with that, Dr. Campos, I believe that clears the decks, yes?
That is correct, Mr. President.
All right. So with that, this meeting is officially adjourned. Colleagues, we'll reset for our management meeting at in 10 minutes at 1:04 in the p.m. Sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Have a great... Mr. Watson. By the way, I know I just adjourned the meeting, but is Gerald Watson still there? Or George Watson. I'm sorry. I see Gerald Watson. George, were you here for the Streets LA report?
Yeah, but it's okay. Mr. Sewell,